Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever and whenever you may be listening. Welcome to another edition of the Vickers Crossing COVID-19 edition.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, look at that. Don't sneeze.
My name is Rob Henderson, and I am the priest at Holy Trinity St. Stephen's Memorial Anglican Church, currently in my dining area.
Oh, nice.
And I'm here with Kevin.
Yes, sir. I'm Kevin George at St. Aidan's Anglican Church. I'm in the regular recording studio because I don't have the same sort of good internet that these two lads have at home. So I've come in here. I'm in isolation, though. There's nobody else around, I assure you. And glad to be back. It's been over 5 weeks, and we know our fans have been clamoring for something. So we've launched into the deep. We don't know what's going to happen here. And of course, we're both here with the other fellow that makes it happen, right, Rob?
Hello, producer Ian.
Hello, I am producer Ian. I produce, I guess. I'm here.
From where are you?
Well, yeah, I'm produce. Well, at the moment, nothing. But I'm here in my own little private abode, I guess. This is my room where I do a lot of editing and. Yeah.
Ladies, nowadays they call it editing.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Sneak peek into the real world of producer Ian.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like a sneak peek would be looking my direction because everything is on this side of the camera, so you get to see a poster and a door. How's that?
Yeah. That'll work for now, believe me.
Yeah.
Better than staring out the same window every day.
Hey, just be thankful I got dressed, okay?
Yeah, well, we're all thankful for that, Kevin. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The Vickers Crossing is a virtual space where faith intersects with the public square, and we want to give a big shout out to our good friend Dave Mullen over at A. Miller George Funeral Home, who continues to be our sponsor, despite the fact that we haven't been around for a little bit, and he's been patient with us, and we appreciate that. A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family-owned and operated. So, boys, what's been going on for the last 5 weeks? How have you been surviving this new world that we've been living in, Kevin?
Well, it's been interesting, eh? Like, I mean, because we entered into this, it's got to be 5 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And when we did, as far as church world goes, it was, well, we're going to reevaluate on April the 8th, which was sort of the beginning of Holy Week. To see where we're at, and it was very clear within a couple of weeks that was nothing but a pipe dream. And so yeah, it's been interesting because I find it odd because of the time of year and the fact that we'd normally be so engrossed in liturgical stuff and a lot of worship services and everything, just being void of all that and having to replace it with this two-dimensional reality that we're in now it's been really unusual, but yeah. And Catherine Ann and I are getting reacquainted at home. We're because now we're home most of the time. I get out a couple times a day, sometimes not much. Usually once I just pop over here to do a little 327 or something just to get some air, take a walk. And Catherine Ann's been working from home as well, so we're both working a lot. And as you know, Rob, even though the services have been suspended, the church goes on. I like what the Queen said. Easter is not canceled.
That's right.
So there's been lots to do, and the painful part of it has been trying to be pastoral with people who are going through really difficult times right now for a whole variety of reasons outside of COVID. But COVID has upended everything, and when you can't give somebody a hug or show up at their door and bring something and sit and chat and hold one another, shake a hand even, it's hard for me. I find it be difficult because I'm a people person, but we're getting through it.
Yeah. How are you holding up there, Ian? What's been going on with you for 5 weeks?
So I'm still in school, and it's really I'm not an online person. A lot of my classes have moved online. Some of them just kind of
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
You're not an online person. You spend most of your time online.
Hey, okay, hold on. I'm not a person who learns the best online, Kevin.
Okay.
I really like being in class, like, because I like having that interaction with my teachers and professors and people like that. So a lot of my classes just kind of stopped. Like, we got lucky because the first sort of 95% of our course was taught at the beginning of this term.
Right.
So like we were sort of lucky in that way. I know that it's not really great to talk about being lucky, I guess, in this time, but I have another week left of school. I have a few more projects left to do and hand in, but yeah. So it's just, I really don't like being online. I get so unmotivated really quickly while trying to do work. Like I have a report that I'm working on that's due tonight, which I'm like done it, but it should have taken me like 3 hours. It took me like 4 days just because I was like, I just don't want to do it. Yeah. So yeah, but it's very strange.
Don't
Yeah.
you find, I mean, I suspect that you find it the same way many of us find it, which is part of the reason I come in here is because I feel more like I'm at work. I'm suspecting that you probably, as a student, find like going into the school is in and itself its own motivation, I think. But it's hard
Absolutely.
when you're home. It's like,
yeah,
where's
definitely.
my Pop-Tart?
Yeah, I find I just get distracted too easily when I'm at home.
Yeah.
There's 100 other
Yeah.
things I can find to do, other than probably the work I should be doing.
Right.
So it's important to go and try to go into an office or that sort of thing. You realize once that's gone for these long extended periods of time, how important that was, that rhythm actually meant something. And then when you're taken out of it, yeah, it's a lot harder to do what you need to do, I find. And, in our house, we're playing a game. My wife and I found a new game to play, and it's called Why Do You Do It That Way? So this is I didn't know that's the way that we cleaned that, or
Yeah.
but we're all here together with my two boys. They're here, and like Ian, my oldest son is at Fanshawe, and he just finished a couple of weeks ago and finished his online exams, so that's all finished. So, but unfortunately, not a lot of great job opportunities after graduation right now.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's finished up too, isn't he?
Right, he's finished, but now what? Yeah. Places that he would have gone to right away that he had set up or was thinking of contacting, are gone.
Yeah.
And he had a summer job out west that still might happen, but right now the place that he was going to go to is closed. So we don't know what's going to happen with that.
How's he feeling about that? Is he bummed out?
A little bit, yeah, but also starting to accept it.
Yeah.
He knows that there's a pretty small chance they'll be heading out, but right now the job's on hold, and they're going to, instead of starting in 1st of May, they say they're going to start 1st of June. But this is in Alberta, and the way Alberta's been going, it doesn't look like they're going to flip the switch anytime soon. So
no, wow,
we'll see. But yeah, you're right too, Kevin, when you say, the liturgical part of it, the things that we do in church are so different now, and nothing that we could even start to mentally get our heads around doing. It was just thrown in like that first Sunday.
Yeah.
I went into the church with my iPad and said, "What is this?" Right? I'll grab this book and I'll sing this and I'll pray this and I'll see what it looks like. And it's just, oh my God, it was uncomfortable to say the least.
It was baptism by fire.
Yeah, big time. But we're 5 weeks in, and what we thought we'd do is, first of all, we want to let folks know that one of the good things that's come out of this for the Vickers Crossing is we found this new way to draw together, which means that we might have an opportunity to draw other folks into the podcast that we might not be able to get on site. That's something that we've been talking about for a while. How do we engage with people and bring guests in when we can't actually have them in the office?
That's right.
So it might be something that we could look forward to, eh?
Yeah, well, and just imagine, I mean, I am sure that there's a list of authors and theologians and people who live in the public square listening to this right now who have been dying to come on this show. And because of expense and so on, they haven't been able to make the trip to London. Well, we're here to tell you folks, all of you who are listening, those of you who've clamored to be guests with us, we will now welcome you. We have a way.
We have a way.
We have the technology.
Yeah, we've been forced to find a way.
That's right. Which is much of what the church has been doing too. Eh? We've been forced to find a way to get out in a way.
Do we want to tease our guest for next week at all, or
I think we should. Yeah, let's tease it out a bit.
Sure. Who do we have coming in? I know Ian knows. Why don't you tell everybody who's coming in next week, Ian?
So we have the high and mighty individual within the
You'll like
London.
He'll like that.
Yeah, I know we will.
Yeah.
A very pristine individual who I've had the chance to work closely with this Easter, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm gonna say. That's my teaser trailer for everyone. I'm sure you can put two and two together.
Yeah. Well, he's a bishop. He's
Yeah.
in Huron.
Yeah.
His initials are double T.
He's the only bishop of Huron that we know.
So Todd is actually he's in the midst of some really good conversations with people about guaranteed basic income, and it's right in the wheelhouse of the sort of things that we talk about here on the Vickers Crossing. So by the time we gather with him next week, I know he's got some stuff he wants to share with people. I think he'd like to make. He's had what I would say is Todd's had one of the online on Twitter and so on. Has had quite a prophetic voice around that. He's had the courage to speak up and say, this should be teaching us a thing or two about how we look after people. So it'll be fun to have him on next Friday.
Look forward to chatting with him next week then, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's coming up. But today, this is, in a sense, if we're being honest, a bit of a test for us, too, to see if we can put together the show here on Zoom right now and how that's going to work. So we just wanted to take a few minutes and check in with our listeners and say hi. And we thought what we'd do is maybe go around the screen and answer a couple of questions. You guys ready for that?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's try it out, man.
Let's try it out.
Let's go.
We put together a few short questions just to talk a little bit about what's been going on these last 5 weeks. So the first question is, tell us maybe a little bit about what you've learned about yourself these past 5 weeks. You've been quarantined alone. There's got to be some self-revelation come out a little bit over the past 5 weeks. So what do you think, Abby? Anything popped to mind?
Well, I mean, I think the one thing I would say this wasn't a new revelation, but I desperately crave human contact. I think I underestimated how much. I mean, I know I'm extroverted and all that. We make a big deal about it, but I also like to have time on my own. But this has sort of really put into perspective just how much I crave human contact and socialization. The other thing I think that's been revelatory to me is, in terms of myself, is when I've got time to actually sit, I'm more focused in a way on my prayer and devotion life in a way that I haven't been in a long time. So not to say I haven't done that, but I haven't been as attentive to it as this is allowed. So I've learned that I can do it. It requires carving out the time to do it and making sure that there's time to be, because when you are extroverted and you crave human contact and all that stuff, it's easier to do that than it is to sort of go into isolation.
Right.
And so I've sort of come to learn that, taking that time away is also valuable because it hasn't been wasted time. It's been time well spent. But there's a happy medium, because when it gets too far, I turn into an asshole. I mean, more than usual. and so then I find myself, I don't live alone, so that's not good, right? Like if you turn into that and you're not, So, but I have learned that that time for self-reflection and time alone is not a bad thing, but in moderation.
What do you think, Ian? Learn anything about yourself?
Yeah, actually, kind of building off of what Kevin said, like humans naturally are social creatures. Like even if you're an introvert, you still have someone that you want to talk to, at least. Like you have that outlet. And for me, it's difficult because I really like home for me is a place where I can like relax and sort of be myself, and going outside is like sort of adventure, and you can like sort of see new people and all of that. But there comes a time where like cabin fever sets in, and then you're just, like, what do I do now? Like I've watched, like I saw someone say like, I've watched all of Netflix, now what? Like I feel like I have nothing to do. I've been trying to like write more songs, and because I have so much time on my hands, but it's difficult because there's sort of like a natural connection natural connection and inspiration that I get from just people in general. And it's kind of interesting to see sort of what I do while I have no one to talk to. like I've been trying to reach out to my friends and FaceTime them, but it's not the same. I really like 3D people rather than on screen people. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a lot thicker than I am on this screen. Like in person, there's a lot more girth.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Robbie?
Yeah. Well, I've learned a couple things. On a personal note, I've learned that I enjoy baking.
Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
yeah, nice.
I used to think I just enjoyed eating the baking, and now I've actually learned that I enjoy it. So it's a new skill that we've been doing here. You know, both of my kids are good cooks and chefs, and my wife's great in the kitchen, and it's something that I've kind of picked up. So just a little bit of fun around that. But overall, on a little deeper scale than that, one of the things I've learned certainly is that as much as Kevin requires human contact, I require daily rhythm. Something, something that I can wake up and then do A and then do B and then C and know what's coming.
Like a routine.
Get into that routine and rhythm, and it carries me through my day. And I found that when that's been taken away in a sense, and it's so sometimes I struggle with trying to get into some form of rhythm, and it's easier. And this is the introvert in me, right? It's easier to just stop and not do it, and just sit in it and try to get that momentum going. But the rhythm is the momentum to get through. And I found I really missed that. So it's been a bit of a challenge to try to gear up sometimes. But the other side of that, though, is it's a good thing too, because within that you also learn that there are some things you can put aside.
Right.
That those things that you think you have to, in your rhythm, take care of all the time aren't actually that important, and you can find new ways to be in things. So that's been a bit revelatory for me too. But and other things too that there's little things you learn, I think, every day if you're self-reflecting and really paying attention to what's going on. So I hope people have a chance to do that as they're going through this.
Well, I think it's important, eh? Like, I mean,
yeah.
We're in the middle of something. We may as well at least see what we know, find out what we know about ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you think's been the most surprising over these past 5 weeks? Anything you've seen or heard or experienced that kind of gave you an aha moment, Kevin?
For me, I got to say, what's been surprising to me is how adaptable we all are as humans. I mean, listen, I have a lot of fun poking fun of us as clergy, right? Because I mean, we're easy targets. But I have been thoroughly impressed with how much adaptation has been done by almost all of the clergy, really. And I mean, people who like self-admitted folks like Sam Thomas. Sam will tell you, our archdeacon. Sam's not a big guy with the technology. He's not into that, but Sam has managed to put up some really great quality videos with really strong messaging. He's hosting his meetings on Zoom and doing all that stuff. I mean, some of us have been doing this before. I mean, I've happened to use Zoom before all this ever came in. No, but many of our clergy never heard the words, let alone used it. And not just the clergy, but everybody. I mean, even just watching the news channels, everything. They're all adapting. Humans are adapting how we live, and it sort of is surprising to me. I don't know why, but I thought. I didn't think we'd necessarily be able to pick up and go so quickly in a different direction, which it seems we have. And I suppose it may change things forever. I don't know, but it certainly has shown us that we have ways to adapt to what we're doing. And along with that, I would say, I guess I've been surprised at the kinder tenor that there is on social media, for instance. It's starting to get a little toxic again these last few days, but for the first 4 weeks of this, Twitter and Facebook have become places where people are sharing a lot of fond memories. A couple of pages have sprung up where I come from in Whiteway. There's a Whiteway Memories page. I've seen pictures of my dad when he was like 20 years old that I've never seen before, that other people in the community had and posted up and stuff. This has all come out of people feeling locked in and wanting to connect to something, to community. And the adaptation has been, well, let's create a community on here where we can go back. And so there's like 400 people on this page of a community that's never had more than 300 in it. And I'm getting connected to people who are, descendants of families I know, but I've never really known them that well. And now we're getting connected through this medium. So I've been surprised by the adaptation and the positivity of, and the politicians go along with that, right? To hear Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau working together,
Yeah.
We've had to learn to put down gripes that don't matter,
Right.
and focus on the things that do matter. So
Mhm.
I've been happily surprised by that.
Good. Ian, anything surprising for you?
Yeah, it's super nice because in Canada here we don't have like I'm just gonna cut funding to the World Health Organization, as some political individuals would have said recently, but it's really nice to see, like, no matter what sort of side, NDP, liberal, conservative, libertarian, whatever, they're all like, let's just stop what we're going to be bickering about in sort of the regular quote unquote times and just deal with what we have. Like, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we agree that this is an issue for Canada. And it was surprising, and it was just kind of like, oh, we live in a country where yes, we have a lot of our own issues that we're sort of dealing with, but we can put aside those differences and deal with what we have coming up in the world of sort of health and issues. One of the things I'm also sort of surprised on is how many people I've heard so many people say different days when we're supposed to be out of isolation. Like, I've heard someone say it's like it's in May, and I've heard someone say it's in 2022. So it's just like where are you getting these information from? So I'm taking it one day at a time, basically. So yeah.
Ian, that sounds like the people who call you for service, whether it's Bell or Rogers or whatever, and they say, I'll be there between 1 and 5.
Yeah.
So what you know is that somewhere between May 1st and September 30th, 2022, we'll be out of isolation.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, what surprised me a little bit, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this because I don't think it should surprise me, but it does. And it's piggybacking a bit on what you said, Kevin, the adaptability around creating this online worship that we've been putting together. What surprises me is the receptiveness of those that are willing to tune in to take part in it.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Because I have to be honest, when it first started, those first couple of weeks, I did what I did, and I think we all did. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, you'll get a few people tuning in, but it's not church, it's not showing up, it's not community. But then I started to get feedback from people that were so appreciative it was there, that they were getting their family around their laptops or their Chromcasts and their TVs and watching it at a certain time in the morning, whether it was live or recorded. And it's become something that really fed them, and they didn't want to step away from that, even if it was totally different and it was from their living room. And that surprised me a bit, because I thought there might be a little pushback on that I'm not going to church, from my pajamas at 2 p.m. when I can get to it.
Right.
But that's a positive thing, and I'm glad I was wrong about that. And it really shows that need to connect. And people have said to me, just seeing you in our sanctuary brings me a sense of peace and normalness and hope. It's a visual picture of where we're going to get to again. So that was a nice surprise on my part.
And it's everybody, Rob. Like, the part that I agree with you. The part that got me with that is just hearing, from getting a picture sent to me of a 5-year-old sitting in front of the iPad watching the service. Right, it just warms your heart. And then on the other end, the 95-year-old founding member, Art Poston, sending an email right after you come offline saying, I just watched it live on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but I just watched it live. And I'm so thankful for all this. And that to me is shocking. Like, I would not have predicted that.
And did I ever think that I'd have people in Nanaimo, BC, watching me do a church service in London? No, but people are sending these to friends and family and connecting. And again, feedback from, my 8-year-old grandson sat and watched with us and really liked it. Yeah. It was like, wow.
Well, and I think, to go back to the learning, I think that's the other thing that perhaps we're learning in church world about this is we've been afraid of the technology in a way, but the other thing we're learning is just the reach that we're not taking advantage of. Mm-hmm. Like, when this is all over, it doesn't take a lot of investment in technology for us to be able to make these things available to people who, for whatever reason, are not going to put their rear end in a pew on a Sunday morning. Right. But from their own home, and they may not even be in the city, as you said. And the messages I've gotten back, because I've been doing a lot of, as morning prayers and evening prayers at the cross and stuff like that a lot. And just like you, people are saying, please don't stop. These are things I look forward to seeing, right? And that to me is like, man, that's a learning. We really need to remember when we come out of this, what we can do with the technology we have in front of us.
I really think this has forced the church to talk about the elephant in the room, which we never want to talk about, which is church is not being at church.
Yeah, it's not being in a building.
We don't say that, right? We don't say that. That's too fearful for us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But what we're discovering is that there is church outside of church.
Well, in some ways, this has highlighted the fact of it's highlighted what it looks like to be the body of Christ outside the doors, right? Because it's all those little things that people are doing for one another now, whether they're dropping food off to their neighbor or making sure they call those family members. I mean, I'm in touch with my family now more than I've ever been. And all of those things are things we ought to be doing, but we take them for granted. And now all of a sudden, like we have this knitting group, tight knit group, and I'm the nitwit. They've been knitting prayer shawls for people now for nearly a year. But since this has happened, they can't knit them fast enough. Yeah. And like we had Marilyn Hale here, God bless her. We continue to keep her in our prayers. Her 63-year-old daughter died. She wasn't able to have a funeral. She couldn't even get a hug. She said, all I want is a hug. Nobody can give me a hug. And Ann went over, Ann Jiker, and delivered that prayer shawl to the step, spoke to her from 6 feet away and said, I wish I could hug you. And when she got out the door, Marilyn was on the balcony calling out to her, wrapped in this prayer shawl, saying, I've got my hug. Like that, that sort of stuff, you really start to see what the body of Christ can look like. But we don't see that if all we do is hang out in the building next door, right?
Exactly. So again, forced into looking into something that maybe we wouldn't look at before, and it's becoming a good thing.
Yeah,
it's becoming a good thing. So we just came out of Easter Sunday last week, and
Resurrection, baby,
Resurrection Day. And I was reflecting a bit on the reading from. Well, there's a choice of readings, obviously, and the one we chose was the reading from John's Gospel about Mary Magdalene standing outside the tomb weeping, and we heard that story on Sunday. And one of my favorite lines in that story is when Jesus says to Mary, don't hold on to me, or don't cling to me. And I spoke a little bit about that this week in something I did, pointing to this idea that perhaps Mary's first needed intention was to grab onto the thing that she knew so well, which was Jesus that she was with for years, right? That familiarity. And by him saying not to cling was a way of saying you need to move forward into something new, not to hold on to what you thought was, but to move into something new. That's what resurrection is.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be doing that in our church, in our culture, in our society when we slowly come out of this. So let's look at that for a second. What do you think this new normal is going to be for us when we start to drift back into the world again?
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the things I hope anyway that it's pointing out is that we had normalized a lot of things before that weren't very healthy. And so for me, I think we revered wealthy people, celebrities, sports people. All the people who are now in isolation are the people that we held up as, the heroes, so to speak. But one of the things that I hope we've learned out of this and that the new normal will give us is a new appreciation for the people who are essential. There was a near crisis in this country when it looked like they weren't going to bring in migrant workers to plant the fields because we'd have a problem in the food supply. If we didn't have truckers delivering that food, if we didn't have the store clerks. I have a woman in my parish. She told me her daughter works at the grocery store. She's a teenager, and she said, look, we don't need you to go into work in this. And she said, no, Mom, I want to do my part. I want to be a team player. This is a hard time for people. I want to do my thing. Our nurses, our teachers, my gosh, what the teachers have had to do in terms of adaptability, our firefighters and our police and our ambulance medics, the paramedics, and also the PSWs getting paid minimum wage or even just a shade better to go in and out of 3 nursing homes because that's what it takes to make up a full-time job. Because all these big corporations that own these places none of them are willing to pay full-time. So they take all part-time. They're going around all these places. They've been bringing disease in and out. And that's become a big crisis. And our nurses and our doctors and all these people, these are the people that we now realize, when we have a political argument about minimum wage, and about a fair living and perhaps even a guaranteed basic level of income, I hope that the new normal means, you know what, we can't afford not to look after people who really look after us day in and day out. That's what I hope comes out of this in terms of a new normal, that we may have fun watching our sports or whatever, if it ever comes back, but that those folks are just people, and right now they're relying on the people in the fast food restaurants and the grocery stores and everybody else. It's not the other way around. I mean, God bless them. Many of them have lots of money and they're being very generous in this time to support hospitals across North America and everything else. And for that, I'm grateful. But we have to understand and know, for me, that it's some of the most vulnerable people among us that are the most incredibly important. And I hope the new normal is we elevate that and we stop the crazy rhetoric about saving money. Corporations that couldn't afford a $15 minimum wage 18 months ago came up with $2 an hour overnight. Okay, so Walmart, which argued against a $15 minimum wage, when everybody got sent home and their workers had to come in, they gave them $2 an hour more overnight. So it's not that there's no money; it's the will is not there. And so I hope the new normal is, these people actually have value, and we need to honor that. That's for me, anyway.
Ian, what do you think? New normal coming up for us? What do you think it looks like?
I'm hopeful. I think it like Kevin said, it's the people who are helping the people that we should sort of look at and care about the most. Like, it's not like the people controlling the big corporations that are like, we need to look after the big guys. Like, no, we need to look after the people who are helping everyone, like the people who are first in line for like issues and things like this. I also think that, like, I agree with Kevin wholeheartedly when he says that. I can't even put it into words, but I also think that a new normal will be hopefully the better climate that's come out of this, like the social climate and the actual climate of the earth.
That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, because what was it like? You could see the Himalayan mountains, like people from
for the first time in like decades.
Yeah, and like now the canals in Italy, Sicily, one of those places. Not great with geography, but the point is still there, where it's, you can now see the bottom and the swans have come back, and just, I think that people are going to be like, okay, listen, like we could see this beautiful thing. Why would we go back to destroying it again, right? Like, the new normal will be sort of reanalyzing how we run things, and I'm just hopeful for the future, and hopefully things actually make a bigger change, rather than just like, oh yeah, like things were kind of messed up, let's return to that. Like, no, let's fix.
I hope we don't do the elastic band thing where we've been stretched, and then when we go back, I'll just snap back to where it was, and we'll continue to go forward. But I think we got a guest coming into the.
I think we have a fine gentleman coming in.
I told him I'd text him when I was ready, but apparently he's wanting to be here now. One of the things we thought we want to do is check bringing in the guests so that when we're ready for Todd next week, we can just bring them in. But it looks like this guy has forced himself into the conversation.
from Wheatley.
It's the guy from Wheatley. He can't be seen because he's backlit, but
he's glowing.
Yeah, he's glowing.
There it is.
This is Morgan Sherlock, Children and Youth Minister at St. Aidan's Church. He's a bit of a guinea pig today because we wanted to make sure we were able to bring a guest in. How are you doing, Morgan?
Oh, living the dream. How are you guys?
Good. We're just going around. We've been answering some questions about where things are at, and we're over to Rob now. And Rob will share what the question is and his thoughts. And he was just in the middle of talking about elastic bands, actually. And then we'll move over to you. Back to you, Rob.
I want to hear your thoughts on this more. No, we're talking about what we think the new normal might look like, or what we're hopeful for when this all kind of, the worst of the worst passes on and we start getting back to our lives outside of our sequestered homes. And one of the things that I was going to say that I'm hopeful for, and that I would really like to see in this new normal, is a better appreciation for the value of community. And, oftentimes I think, especially today, we get, it's so easy to distance ourselves from community and say, I'm autonomous, I can do this on my own, I don't need anybody else, I just take care of myself. But I think what we've discovered is, when it's taken away, the need for community is is important and part of who we are as human beings. So my hope is that we'll really embrace that. And what I've seen coming out of, especially in church world, is so many good things coming out of these communities of parishes that are organizing themselves in very difficult circumstances to ensure that the vulnerable and that those that need are taken care of. And I hope we keep seeing that and value that at the grassroots level, a lot of important stuff can be done. A lot of important change can take place at the grassroots level. We don't necessarily need the big overarching systems to take care of things for us, that we hold a responsibility to do that, and we can do it when we're connected with each other. So my hope is as we move forward into this, that we'll really embrace that and excited about doing that work together. So what do you think, buddy? Visions of the new normal.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about community. Couple of things I would share on that. I've noticed with celebrities and famous people, when they've done a woe is me type story, the world has kind of slammed them. But when celebrities have actually gone to reach out to members of the public and actually kind of humanize themselves in a way, that's had a really profound impact. And I think those celebrities who've done that have allowed themselves to be vulnerable and become closer to the fan base that they speak to. And I think as whether we're working in a church or in my other world and working in education, I think the success story of this time and building that community is doing exactly that as well, being able to humanize ourselves and be vulnerable, which, as clergy, you guys have managed to do online in many different ways. Some people are going, this is the first time I've ever touched this piece of technology, and that scares me. And I think that's a really important message, because I think people can relate to that sense of trying something that's not normal. And I think it shows a better respect for people. And I think the other thing I'd like to see coming out of the other side of this is just a general appreciation that we don't know what's going on for people. This is the first time where I can really say I've been involved in a crisis. It's natural disasters happen around the world, and that's always kind of distanced. But for me, this is the first time where I've been involved in a crisis, and I know privately the struggles I've had with that. And I think that's made me have a better sense of relationship maybe going forward with people who are struggling privately. I'm not going to make assumptions about people, and I'm not going to place my own intentions on them if that's not necessary. And I hope we learn that in our relationships with one another, that active listening, being able to listen to people, I think is coming out of this so much more than our actions are, because we are isolated. So
can I build off of sort of Morgan in general?
You're the producer. Rob,
yeah, I can do what I want.
Is he able to build off of that, Rob? Is that
build away, man? Build away.
I just thought you brought up education, and one of the things that I hope for in the new normal also is better funding for the things that we turn to when we're in a crisis. So we didn't turn to physics and geography and mathematics when we're in a crisis. We turned to art and music and everything that is less sort of, I guess, factual. So when schools are cutting funding for art programs and they're putting all of their money into football, yeah, you can do that if that's fine, but also understand that there are people who still need that escape with what we use, what we creatively do outside of 20 times 20 or whatever, so that's sort of the focus on education as a whole, rather than education in what matters, whatever what matters means, quote unquote. So putting money towards things that putting money towards education in general, rather than just the STEM sort of fields. Yeah, no offense to those fields, but it has,
it's
music.
really opened our eyes to that kind of stuff
Yeah.
That's not been right in front of us, that we're actually turning to give us hope and get us through the day and that kind of stuff. So that's a good thing, I think.
I'm going to be like Ian now. Can I build on that?
Absolutely.
Wait,
what if I say no?
Should I look?
Go ahead. Right. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
What occurred to me was, and this is not unconnected to our sponsor. What occurred to me is just what some of our funeral directors and cemetery staff and so on are going through right now. They're another group that people don't mention a lot, along with pharmacists who've been doing an unbelievable amount of work because a lot of people can't get in to see their doctors. I saw one pharmacist on in Toronto, independent pharmacist, talking about how he was, dressing wounds because people couldn't get into the doctor. The folks at the cemeteries here in town are finding their storage is running out, not just because of COVID deaths, but because funerals are being postponed. And a lot of them are working 7 days a week, and our funeral directors are having to find ways to adapt. And I know Dave Mullen, our sponsor at A. Millard George, has communicated to me and Rob that it is a stressful time for them too. So I just want to give a shout out to Dave and to all the funeral directors we know who are keeping the faith and trying to do what they can for families. It's a pretty tough message to have to deliver when someone calls you up to come and pick up their loved one and you say, well, yeah, I'll do that, but I need you to know we won't be having a service unless there's just 10 or less of you 6 feet apart at a graveside. That's all we can do. So, I have a lot of love for those guys, and they're doing a good job. So shout out to you, Dave.
Yeah, you bet. And I think that's a great segue as we bring our first ever Vickers Crossing podcast on Zoom to a close. And I want to say hi to Dave and thank him again for making this possible, that we can do these types of things and put this podcast together to reach out to folks. A. Millard George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated, are great sponsors here at the Vickers Crossing. So it was good to check in with everybody. And we'll be getting together again next week.
Yep.
For sure. We'll try to get Bishop Todd on. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the work he's been doing.
Yeah. Incredible too, by the way. We should say that, I know Rob and I we're being clergy, we get letters. I just have been overwhelmed with the support out of Todd's office. Todd has been incredibly good with us, and we're lucky to have who we have for a bishop.
Yeah, certainly right. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Morgan.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for being a guinea pig there, buddy.
I do it well.
He's related to, who was the guy from Wheatley? What was he called?
I can't remember.
Can't remember now. We said there was a guy from Wheatley.
Or something like that.
To be fair, confession, I've never understood the joke, so.
Well, it's just there's a place down the road called Wheatley. And we just wanted to come up with a place, and you were there in the room, so we just gave you a false name, but I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and dig into the archives to try to figure out.
Sherlock. Did we Sherlock from Wheatley? No, that wouldn't have been. No.
Hey, Ian, thanks for inviting us into your room and doing this today.
Oh yeah, no problem. As you know, wait, never mind. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
And thanks for this. He's going to receive this video in a second. So thanks for figuring that out for us too. So one of the things you're going to have to put up with on YouTube, folks, is now you get to see us, at least in a Hollywood Squares format, and in terms of the YouTube version. But Ian's going to do some work to extract the sound or extract the video, however you look at that, so that we can try and get this up to iTunes as well. So it's caused some ingenuity and adaptability, as we talked about earlier. So thank you for being adaptable, Ian.
Right.
No
and to
problem.
our listeners and those that have been tuning in and supporting us over these last couple of years, really appreciate your patience as we've been trying to get things together to be able to come back to you. So we're back, baby. Yeah, Kev?
There's one more thing we almost forgot, Robbie.
What's that?
Since we last had a podcast, Ian turned 19.
Oh,
I did turn 19. Yes, that is something that happened.
Happy birthday, Ian.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday, Ian.
Thank you. Yeah.
We were forced to have a virtual beer with him.
Yes.
Yeah, we did have a virtual beer, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's a delightful thing.
And
Yeah.
and another part of the Vickers Crossing turned more than 19 on the same day. And that's Robbie.
Just a bit.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Rob.
Happy birthday to Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, guys. Good to see you. And to our listeners, thanks for dropping by, and be well. We'll keep you in our prayers, and we hope to be back to a new normal as soon as we can. That's what we're all holding out hope for. So until we get together next time, from all of us here at the Vickers Crossing, take care. And Kevin, remember to always look both ways
Before you cross the street.